Okay, welcome back to Fast Performance then, and in this video I'm going to tell you why our British Defence Secretary Grant Shapps is a flip-flop. So let's take a very brief look then at this man who I say has no reason to be in this position as Defence Secretary, literally the bottom of the barrel unfortunately, and they found this guy and they've run out of everyone else since Ben Wallace wasn't accepted for his role in NATO, and of course he's stepped down. We don't see him anymore after he pushed this entire agenda in. Don't let Ben off the hook here. Ben Wallace, our previous Defence Secretary, is the one that we really need to look at as well as to why this got in. And because this video might get quite intense, we do have an owl of calm here, and if we do get a little bit stressed, then what we are going to do is play the owl of calm. Grant has got this now. He's got to deal with it, and the one thing he's seeing is a huge pushback by former military officers such as myself. Now, I've been doing this for about 4 years. I've been talking about this. My YouTube history, if you want to go down there, you'll see everything that I've been talking about previously, but now we are getting some more senior figures who are saying, I didn't want it either, by the way. I didn't want it. The Richard Kemps, all the other people are coming out, the Ed Stringers, and I'm sure they were lovely, and I'm sure they did, but they didn't do YouTube videos like I did. They didn't lose jobs like I did. They weren't chased by the security services like I was. I've been putting my hands up for the last 4 years saying that if you do this, you will fundamentally weaken the integrity of the defence services of the United Kingdom. So what he's saying is he rejects the idea of lowering the security clearances for overseas recruits. What is going on, people? And if you say, well, Tim, that's a Guardian article, I agree with you, and it's the same one that appears in the Telegraph. What we need to be doing, of course, is installing proper discipline back into our public sector services, much like these Chinese children. This is why I say this man is a flip-flop, because here we have this week him saying that he's going to dig into the woke culture in the British Army. The main thing is that he's completely changed his tune from about 2 weeks ago. We'll have a look at that in a second. This is a picture from the Royal Navy showing differences between sexual orientation and gender identity. Rich Knighton, it says here, has apologised for an RAF Diversity 5 that discriminated against white men because he had no choice. I was hanging him out to dry because of what Mike Wigson, his previous chief, has said. Look, I'm committed to improving the working conditions and morale of all those who work in the military and Ministry of Defence. Empty words. Empty words. We know you're not going to do anything about it. You're just doing this because you've got an election coming up and you know how badly the Conservatives are going to lose. And I am a Conservative with a small c, and I'm getting irate, so bring in the owl of calm. An extremist culture has infiltrated public life over years. It's time for a proper shake-up. Well, the time for a proper shake-up, mate, was when you weren't 6 months running out for a general election in which you're going to lose by the biggest landslide that you've ever seen in political history in the United Kingdom. This is a Conservative government that allowed this to come in, and we should be absolutely disgusted with them. The same way we should be absolutely disgusted with our seniors in the civil service, the military, healthcare, education. Literally, guys, I've been saying it for years. We've been overtaken by little neo-Marxists that have come in here. It actually talks here about the military trying not to have, or trying to minimise the religious or the religious or the Christian elements of traditional remembrance services, probably because it's going to be offensive to someone somewhere. Listen to him. I'm willing to stand up and challenge it, he says. Well, let's go back to last week, shall we then, Grant? All right, a bit of artistic license. It was actually about a month ago. Female army recruits are the key to solving the armed forces recruitment crisis, says Grant Shapps. There's even a line in here which you guys and me are going to just find so deplorable. He said he was worried the makeup of the military did not reflect wider society and insisted more should be done to attract and retain women. So what we're going to need, of course, is disabled people. We're going to need pregnant people in the military. We're going to need deaf people. We're going to need blind people. We're going to need some guide dogs, probably, because there's people that use those as well. Nonsense. Absolute rubbish. Now, I've been in the military and I've trained a lot of people in the military to fly military fast jets. There is no place for people in the military who are weak, who don't want to be there, who find it stressful. I know that because I found it stressful myself. It's a hard place to be. You do not want society in your military. What you want in your military is the best possible people you possibly can get in there. So this is what he was talking about. Let's get more women in. If you remember, the Air Force famously wanted 40% women and 20% minorities in by 2030. And one of the problems is we don't have 20% minorities in the United Kingdom. We just don't. We have about 18%. And out of those 18% military, there's a significant portion of them and women that just won't fit in the military. They're either too old, they're outside the 16 to 45 fighting age male that we talk about, the fighting age male, that classic trope that we tend to recruit into our military over and above anyone else. So really, when you're looking at 18% minorities, you're trying to get 20% people in, you're looking for a very, very large portion of a very, very small demographic. Is not possible. It says here, women make up a fraction of Britain's military, comprising about 11% of the whole workforce. Recent figures showed 13.8% of all officers in the forces were female. However, there were just 24 women holding top positions. Yes, because it's rubbish to get to a top position. It's really hard. You don't want to do it. You'd have no family, by the way. There's very few women that want to do it. There's very few men that want to do it. You can't. It's like pandas having sex, isn't it? We're giving you cash and you're still not doing it. If you're a woman in the military now, you're leveling up. Everyone's throwing gold coins at you at this point. The same thing they're doing for minorities, but women are not stupid. They realise the sacrifices they've got to make. And one of the things we've seen them push out as a solution to this is to get old boys like me back in to go and teach, but I'm not interested. I've done 20 years. I was speaking to a few guys out on the internet as well. Would you go back? They were like, dude, we did 20 years in jets. One thing they don't tell you as well is you will live with a lot of pain when you come out, whether that's psychological or manifested in some kind of physical form. Now, my neck and my upper back getting worse as I age, guys, so I'm lifting, obviously you know it, I'm stretching, trying to do anything of it. I didn't claim anything for that whatsoever. A lot of people left the military on disability. I never did. You cannot expect to fly military fast jets, especially with a neck like a giraffe, and not expect to have some kind of damage. You don't come out then and try and sue your government. You come out like a man or a woman, and you've done your job, you've done it to the best of your abilities, and you go and do something else. So you will come out, unfortunately, with injuries if you go into the military. A lot of people don't want that, and so when they're saying, look, come and return, they're really not thinking this through properly, because here's your shot at a second chance in the Air Force. If I wanted to stay, I wouldn't have left. Owl of Calm. All together now. There's probably not enough money to pay guys like me to join again. And the only reason I say that is not because I wouldn't want to. It's just that you come out, you build businesses, all that kind of stuff. You move your family to somewhere where they can get themselves a job. And then they say, hey, come back and be in the middle. No, you created the holes. You fill the holes. And there's the article really on telling soldiers, this is what upsets me. Do you know how many of these soldiers have got Christ's cross on their arm? Jesus or their own religion on their body? All right, this is when you go to war, there's no atheist in a foxhole. That's what they say. And you're telling us now, this is what's so disgusting to me. They're saying that we have to avoid Christian elements in acts of remembrance. I've seen some really, really bad things about this. This is just subversion from within. So the Ministry of Defence will call me a subverted. They say I'm trying to subvert the British military. And last week my wife said, are you? And I said, well, I'm not trying to subvert them. I'm trying to stop them subverting themselves, because this isn't me saying you must stop having religious elements within the acts of remembrance. This is the army has told soldiers to avoid religious elements in acts of remembrance on Armistice Day. This is the army. I'm trying to stop them doing it, and yet I'm the guy that they talk about in lectures and saying, oh, avoid Tim because he's trying to subvert us. Luckily he is. Because you need to. The chief, well, I'm trying to subvert people like the Chief of Air Staff. You've actually got Grant Shapps, you've got Ben Wallace. All these people, I'm telling them they're fundamentally wrong. Now, he's said to be furious. He's not furious, of course he's not. But there was a letter written by Major General Julian Thompson, of course, the Commander General of the Royal Marines, who led 3 Commando Brigade across the Falklands back in 1982, and some other very senior people who have all written about this and have all said this has actually got to stop, and good on them, I hope. There's a few of them that have sort of jumped in there, of course. But again, we talked about diversity training, some awful things happening here, guys. And I just think you need to, if you know someone in the military, you need to be supporting those people. It cannot be a good time for them. Gender neutral ranks, we've been absolutely taken over. If you knew anyone with pronouns in their bio, or a Ukraine flag, anything like that, you'll see that the next big thing, the BLM, anything like that, any of those kind of people, you'll see that they're removing them now because they realise they've been called out by people like me. Stonewall. Oh, I told them not to do this. They did. The diversity champion was a guy called Andy Turner. He was the chap that was found running around his garden naked, of course. We've spoken about this before. I told them not to bring this in. They did already. This is common purpose. This is what this is. And we think what's happened is all the seniors have gone through this. They've all gone through this common purpose thing about accepting people. I'll accept your cookie. About accepting people with differences. And we're going to connect across differences. And it's absolute rubbish. And they've all gone and done it. They've all drunk that Kool-Aid, as the Americans will say. And then what we're left is people bringing in things like Stonewall into these organizations, and it's absolutely ludicrous. It's rubbish, guys. I genuinely, I can't believe. We look back on this period and we're like, how did we get here? And I'm telling you how we got here now. Before I do the Owl of Cards, weak leaders. And I'll leave you with Rakib Ehsan's essay here, and it's a very good one, and he is basically saying what I'm saying, and both of us are aligned on this. Lovely bloke. He's saying identity politics is crushing the vital Western principle of meritocracy. Just ask the armed forces. And as I've said before, guys, if you accept diversity into any institution, then you do so by sacrificing meritocracy. It's absolutely criminal. He goes through things that I've talked to you about before. I don't want to keep this tape too long. Today's Fast Set Performance. Grant Shapps is a flip-flop. The end.